Do you still believe in Nigeria?
I believe in Africa.
Is that far different from Nigeria?
Yes, we have to understand Nigeria is a colonial structure. And when, as Africans, understand what happened to the continent of Africa, then we need to appreciate our history. Why do I always go back there? Because Africans take, for instance, the Trans-Sahara slave trade for granted. We take the Trans-Sahara Atlantic slave trade for granted. And when we even talk about this, we blame ourselves. We say we sold ourselves. These are issues that we are taught. That's why I said education is so important. If we don't understand and appreciate what our ancestors went through, where we're having this interview, can you imagine how many souls died during the slave trade? Just been transported from, let's take for instance, somewhere very close like Benin. It's an African. So look, you see, colonialism will teach me. I will have said a slave was caught in Benin. It wasn't a slave. An African, a person, a human being was arrested, or captured, taken by force in Benin, put chains around his neck, tied his feet and hand, little water, no food, and he had to walk from Benin all the way to Badagry before he or she was put, and children were put on a ship and taken to the world where they did not recognize. This happened, not one, not two, not 1,000, not 10,000, millions. They say approximately 100 million people died walking, 100 million, 60 million died in the sea. The wars that were happening, the trauma that happened on this continent, the cries, we cannot, you see. And I always like to use the Hitler's case as an example. Why are we sympathetic to the Jewish story? Because there is footage. So if you just talk, you can't even crack a bad Jewish joke, you can't even crack a Jewish joke, they will bring you down. That is how Africa must stand. Don't talk about the slave trade to us. Do you know our pain? You can't imagine the cries. When will Africa stand united in this case? When do we take our case to the United Nations as one people, one voice? We want to veto America. How do we do this? When we are divided, when we go with the colonial structures, we will always talk in multiple voices. And as the Bible says, when you talk in multiple voices, you have no voice. When we talk with one voice, united, we go to United Nations, we pull out. Because then that body is insignificant to what to us as a people. Of what is it to us? If we all say yes and America vetoes us, of what significance is our presence there? So we stand as one people. So we make our voice heard. We start to do things. We make Africa the envy of the world. So then I'll be able to drive my car from Lagos to Johannesburg. We open our borders. Do you know that as a Nigerian, I'm fortunate to have a British, or should I say unfortunate, I don't know which way, to have a British passport. But if I want to go to South Africa, I don't have to go and apply for a South African visa. I just walk into South Africa, they stamp 3 months on my passport. As a Nigerian, I have to queue, and I probably will not get the visa. As an African, as a Nigerian that fought against apartheid, I will not be given a visa to South Africa. But as a British, South Africa opens its border to me. You see, all this is part of colonialism. To ourselves, we are very wicked. Just go from Lagos to Benin. See what it will cost you to get through that border. Even if your documents are correct, you will hate yourself at the end of the day.
So is this a betrayal of African leadership?
No, this is part of appreciating our history. We have not learned to appreciate ourselves or our history. When you understand 500 years of slavery, you can understand why this is happening. So I will not be one to tell you that I'm going to fight for freedom and it's going to come, I want it in my lifetime. No, I know it's not possible in my lifetime. Do you know how many souls have lost their lives fighting for freedom? Do you know, if Obama is president of America, it's something that nobody could foresee when Martin Luther King was talking about this. But if you thought Obama was going to bring unity into America, then you are a clown. So I'm sure, and if Obama too was thinking it's going to be an easy road, it must have been, he will be a joker, because the fight has just started. A black person probably will never get elected in the next 50 years, but we have seen the possibility. But is that where a black person should be even elected? Where is the African unity? Where is the brotherhood, the sisterhood of Africa? Where is fighting for the envy of Africa? Africa, the great continent. Where is all this? So when you appreciate this history, you understand why corruption is. You understand why we are the way we are. You understand why the fight must continue. You understand why the fight must end. When you understand all this, then you are cooler, you are calmer. You understand that violence is not the answer to this problem. We need more intellectuals. We need to be more tactical. We need to be very diplomatic. We need to be very patient. We need to have virtue on our side. All these things must be in the fighters' weaponry and gallery.
You're almost a new apostle now, if I may say that. But let's just say this. You are vastly read as a father. Was that something in the gene or? No,
he made sure when I left school, when he took me out of school, that was one of the other good things he did. He ensured I read. So I came out of school. He now said to give me books on autobiography of Martin Luther King, autobiography of Malcolm X.
At
that age, 16. So I was reading Stolen Legacy, Black Man of the Nile. This book I read about 3 times. Then I went. So every time I was fortunate to travel, I went to any black library. So I was now reading. I became more read than him. So I was known like a professor in his house. And because I had read so much, I could read between the lines, because there are so many books you will read and the author is just trying to sweet-tone you to buttress his points, but doesn't mean he's right. So I was that kind of reader that I would read. I said, I read another book and this author is trying to sweet-talk me. The facts are not accurate. And he will say, how do I know? So I will now bring books. I said, I read. He said, you read this book too? He said, you are doing a lot of reading, or you are a professor. So everybody now knew that I was just reading and reading. I went spiritual. I was reading the Egyptian Book of the Dead, for instance. I was very curious about death. I was very curious that, wow, because at 16, 17, I was very frightful of death. And I was so frightful, and I could not understand my father's bravery. And so I wanted to be brave. So I said to look for research about what if I was killed? What if my father dies? I wanted to know about death. So I just said to read books. And you will not even believe I came first in BK in school self. I wanted information. And the only way I could get that information was by reading. Then after reading, I now stopped reading to now assimilate what I've read, come to my own conclusion, not be biased. So I am not racist. I'm not, even when I talk about Pan-Africanism, I understand that we need the West, we need medicine, we need to understand, we cannot be judgmental and say, yes, Europe came and took us as slaves, but then we must understand, why did Europe take us as slaves? It was a big, massive propaganda by the kings and queens of Europe to come. So they had to brainwash their own people that they are bringing cannibals, pagans, unreligious, monkeys, dirty hooligans from Africa. So they had to brainwash their people. When they said to bring out the Africans, imagine traveling that distance. I said, by the time you arrived Europe, you will look like a cannibal. But African, when we go back into our history, we were living like kings and queens. But by the time the slave trade and all this happened, we did look like cannibals. We did look like unreligious or dirty. We look like animals, period. So they brainwashed their people, but it was them, it was their same people. By the time they now got the bad people in Africa to participate in this slavery, Europe said to wake up to the crimes of humanity. So it was Europe, with the fighters of Africa, of course, that had to stop the slave trade. Africa could not have stopped that slave trade on its own. But then Europe, it took Europe 500 years to understand, wow, I caught daddy sleeping with that so-called black monkey. That black monkey is pregnant. The mulatto is born. What is going on? Do you know what the torment the European now went through? That, my God, what is this? My father is guilty of crime. It was them that now had to fight their own system to stop the slave trade. And Africa could not have stopped the slave trade without first them realizing they were wrong. So many of them, many Europeans saw the wrong. And then don't forget, they were even having a lot of internal wars, religious wars in Europe, in America, the independence of America. So much was going on. When you understand all this history, you can understand why Africa is the way it is. And then you have to appreciate why we have very, I wouldn't want to say unintelligent people as leaders, but misinformed people as leaders, that we still talk about more states, blah, blah, blah. Instead of moving forward with Kwame Nkrumah's dream, Marcus Garvey's dream, and people like this.